If you are successful to get your heart and brain into coherence, you will generate that field. If your thoughts and your emotions are going opposite directions, you will not create a coherent field. You're going to give mixed signals.
Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Welcome to the show, friend. I have a new best friend, Ashley, with me. And, we've been talking about what is it that can help us keep moving forward, keep going. We're on this path of life and we don't know how long the path is, but we've got to make it. And sometimes we doubt ourselves. Sometimes we question ourselves. Sometimes we feel mighty powerful and wonder why nobody else is following. But guess what? The whole clue kind of boils down to, do you even know who you are? What are your values? What makes you tick? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? Do you really know who you are? So, Ashley, welcome to the show. The information about you is in the show notes. So help us to know ourselves. What makes me tick? How can I figure that out?
Well, first of all, knowing the self requires a person to build a relationship with themselves. A lot of times people don't realize that they are just as much of a stranger to themselves as somebody else on the street. And so it requires us to actually give ourselves our own undivided attention. And so that means just like you would carve out time in your schedule to spend time with your husband or your wife or your children or to go to work. Even at work, you have tasks, you have things that you dedicate time to, that you give your undivided attention to. You have to do that for yourself. You're not going to do that watching Facebook or, being on Netflix or multitasking with a whole bunch of different things. If you did that to another human being, they would think that you don't really care that much, that you're not really truly listening or giving them your attention. And so there's that level of maybe resentment or in some cases disinterest. The same thing occurs for us. When we want to truly know ourselves, it's just like you're dating somebody. You have to sit down, carve out time in your calendar on a regular basis that shows yourself even that I love myself, that I care, that I'm interested, and I really want to know the answers. Because oftentimes what's really interesting is that people think that they want to know themselves, but they don't because they're so afraid of what they will find. We're often trained about, like somebody will program us at a very young age to what to think or feel about ourselves or about life. Like there's this phrase that says, give me a child to the age of 7 and I'll show you the man. And what they mean is that children are often so impressionable at those ages because they're in the alpha, theta brainwave frequencies much of the time. And so what they observe with their eyes, what they hear, what they experience becomes their default mode later in life, their subconscious mind. And so people oftentimes don't realize what's running in the background, where it came from, how long it's been there, and just how many ways it affects their life. Because, if you're only running your conscious mind 5 to 10% of the time and everything else is an unconscious autopilot, you won't know why you're doing things. You won't even know why you have that belief or that fear, that phobia, or that sudden desire, that burning desire to go do something, or why you want to do something, but you can't make yourself do it. And so part of knowing oneself is to make yourself a priority.
So, question.
Yes.
I'm successful. I'm making good money. My kids are good. They're got good grades. They're on their way to college. What benefit is it going to give me to know me? I'm already doing all the things that my parents taught me showed success. What is the benefit of knowing me?
If you know what makes you successful, you can reproduce it. If you don't know what undermines you, you will reproduce it. That's one of the things that sort of like this oxymoron type of thing is when people know what makes them successful. They know, what their beliefs or their values are, why they respond a certain way. They can reproduce it on demand rather than it being accidental. But if they are not aware of what their role is in every situation, like what was one of the things I had to ask myself was, what was my role in any toxic situation? Or what was my role in everything that was successful? And I had to see my habits and behaviors, my belief systems in each situation so that I knew not to do that again. Otherwise, I would get that result that was undesirable. Or I knew if I wanted more of this, I had to do more of that. So part of it is like reproducing more of those results on purpose. And so if you believe that your life is on track and there's no reason to get to know yourself, then you probably won't take the time. But if you feel like there's something missing or there's something more that you're seeking, it could be a much of a benefit for you to take that time out of your day. Again, some people, they just love their life so much. They're like, I've got it figured out. There's no reason to go do a deep dive. But most of the people that are seeking something or listening to podcasts, they're not just doing it just to kill time. They're doing it because they're seeking something. And maybe they don't know what that is right away, but maybe they feel like something's missing, or they're getting to a different stage of their life and they feel different. Or maybe they're so busy taking care of other people that they feel like they've lost themselves. And there's just this underlying maybe feeling of dissatisfaction. So for you, do you feel like everything in life is exactly the way you want it to be?
No. And that was just what if.
Because a person who thinks life is perfect may either be doing this already or
Right.
they don't feel like there's any value to that. But again, most people, they're seeking, why am I here? What is the meaning of life?
And I know a lot of women that are very successful and are afraid to make a change because it might take away that income, might take away those friends, might take away something that they really love. So if I change, what if I lose some of these things that I really feel ingrained with as part of my life? And if I know myself, maybe I'll change.
Well, part of the thing that I've been noticing for my clients is that fear just creates resistance. And so people will avoid the things that they feel resistant to. And so part of this is to let go of the resistance. And that's why I talk to people about something called heart math. The Heart Math Institute in California, they found that the heart has a bundle of 44,000 neurons that generates the largest electromagnetic field in your body. It is 40 to 60 times stronger than your brain electrically and up to 100 times stronger than your brain magnetically. It is that powerhouse of like when you have an emotion that then changes your brain. And so you can't think, speak, or act differently until you feel differently. And so if you're afraid of change, of resistant to something, then a person needs to go into these what I call alpha theta brainwave frequencies of neutral or better energy. And so like the very baseline of heart math is just to put a person's attention or awareness in the area of their heart and pretend like their heart itself is a lung. And you're just observing the air going in and the air going out. About 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out for about 3.5 to 5 minutes. Not very long. Even 30 seconds is a great way to do a pattern interrupt where you're not in fight, flight, or freeze or stress mode, but you just allow yourself to reset into these, again, I call it neutral or better energies, because you're really not necessarily having to be in stress, depletion, sadness, or whatever. It's just being an observer of air. You just go into this place of relaxation where you're able to receive information that you may have resisted before. You may be able to receive either a truth about something that you were afraid of hearing, or you may actually, the more you do this, become less resistance just out of entrainment. Meaning, neurofeedback specialists will put people into alpha theta to help people heal from depression, anxiety, PTSD, and addiction. So when you're doing these alpha theta brainwave frequencies just by doing heart focused breathing. If you do that twice a day, within like a week and a half, 2 weeks, you start having a life review without the emotion. And so you start to see your life differently. You'll see your past differently. The people that may have triggered you in the past, either anger or sadness or, resentment or whatever, you'll start to feel indifferent to them. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you become apathetic and numb and have no emotions. It dissolves this energy between you, this pattern of an emotional pattern or thought pattern between you. And so you will see it differently without that resistance filter. And so when you start going into these frequencies on a regular basis, your brain gets so used to this new pattern that the thing that you may have been afraid of before or resistant to before, suddenly, without intention, just goes away. And so I love that for people because this is not something you're mentally talking yourself into. You just feel differently about it. So you build up your resilience and tolerance to stress. So it takes a lot more to invoke that stress response, including your own thoughts or fears or beliefs. But it also creates new reference patterns that have to do with the past or that have nothing to do with the past. So that subconscious programming from early childhood about what your parents thought was important or valuable, it suddenly starts to change. And so you might start having these aha moments of like, wait a minute, why do I believe that? Why is this fearful for me? Like, why am I resisting that? And there's like 6 different types or techniques to heart math. And so one of them is called freeze frame, where you do heart focused breathing. And then you ask yourself a question, an open-ended question like, what are my next steps? Or what am I truly afraid of? Or how can I do this in a way that is easy and graceful? And so sometimes just asking yourself more optimistic, solution-oriented questions will give a person a better answer versus a fear-based question. And so if a person's like, how do I have this change or go through this change process in a way that feels the most empowering and beautiful for me and allows me to have my friend groups, then they'll start to have solutions come to them, either in that moment or when they least care about the outcome, like putting the liner in a garbage can or something.
I love it because it gives you don't have to make it happen. So many times we think, I got to go to this training, I got to go to this, got to go do this to make a change, where this will allow a change to come about. And so it sounds wonderful. And I love breathing. Can I do this type of breathing while driving, or do I need to be in a quiet, secluded area to take advantage of it?
That's a really good question. I've done it while I've been driving. I've done it at the grocery store, and I'm like, you're welcome, everybody. I sort of make it a joke to myself. I've done it in the presence of clients who are like very emotional, either super angry because they're explaining a story that triggered them, or they're crying. I've even done it on the phone with somebody who is in a totally different country, and they asked, are you doing something to me right now? Because what happens is this person gets into your field and there's almost this form of quantum entanglement. So not only are you inducing self-regulation, you're creating co-regulation. And because your field goes out up to 9 meters, they say can technically go across, the world through just intention alone, but up to 9 meters, if you're doing this heart-focused breathing, you can shift and lift the vibration of a whole room in a meeting. I mean, your field will start to affect everybody around you. And so this is where it gets interesting. People don't realize that somebody may be reacting or treating them a certain way because of the field they emit. They think that they're trying to arrange their facial features. They're smiling. Their tone of voice is modulated. Their posture's welcoming, but somebody's just picking up something. And it could be how you actually feel on the inside or what you think about that person, because you are emitting a signature that even though you think that you're treating them well, if you really think that person's icky, they may actually know.
Oh, and I am definitely guilty of that. Like someone that I'm like, I am barely getting through this conversation. Just get it over, but I got to be nice. It's because I choose. I don't want someone to feel bad, and I hate it when I'm the one internally going rah rah rah. It's like, okay, I need to allow this person to be them. I don't want to change them, but I want it to be a good feeling. I'm not happy enough. I don't want anybody to feel worse when I walk around. And so it's like, okay, how do I do this? How do I make sure I'm emitting love and acceptance, even when my brain is kind of fighting something about the situation? And I'm not really sure if sometimes I think I'm successful at it, and sometimes I know the person still thinks I'm pissed. So how do we make that? Is the breathing that magical?
It's more than breathing. I mean, yes, if you are successful to get your heart and brain into coherence, you will generate that field. If your thoughts and your emotions are going opposite directions, you will not create a coherent field. You're going to give mixed signals, and that's another thing that people they can have happen. Like people are like, I don't know why, I'm just not understanding you. It can be because the fields are bouncing off of each other. But the first key is to put yourself into self-regulation. And so before you even try to regulate somebody else, just getting yourself into, doing heart focused breathing, because oftentimes people think that they're being nice. That's actually can feel like a form of manipulation. I'm not joking. Like, I didn't realize as a history of people pleasing, what have you, and now having received it myself and understanding what the energy feels like. When we think that we're being nice to placate somebody, it might make them more angry.
Mhm.
And so when you can literally get yourself into a place of neutrality, a person may pick that up. They may not be able to read you really well, but if you can go into a place of neutrality, like just doing the heart focused breathing and radiating neutrality throughout the rest of you, or radiating care or kindness throughout the rest of you before emitting that field to somebody else. It starting with self-regulation really is important. I'm just going to just give an example. I had somebody actively yelling at me, and I just did heart focused breathing because I'm like, I'm not going to get triggered. And the person stopped mid-sentence, looked at me confused and said, "What was I saying?" And I was just like, "Don't know," and walked off. And so we can do this where we can just actively, intentionally go into this place of neutrality going, I'm not going to just play nice. I'm actually going to literally get myself into neutrality or care before going into it. Because a lot of times people think my niceness is care. It's not. And there's also overcare. If you are so fearful of what somebody else will feel, rather than giving them the truth with dignity and grace, you may also be generating a field that says, I don't trust this person. I don't trust their receptivity. I don't trust their reactions or what have you. There's so many different ways that information can come through that's misconstrued. So just get yourself into this neutral or better energy first, radiate throughout yourself, and then try to connect with that person.
Yeah, I don't think I ever want to, in my brain, physically go try and change the other person. It's always, I need to change the way I'm delivering. I need to change the way I'm internalizing things because that's the only person I have control over is me. And if I can neutralize my response to be okay with whatever theirs is, I've now helped myself. I now can get through a crazy, heavy meeting where everybody disagrees with everybody and come out okay. I can go to crazy places where people just are cutting you off on the road. They're in a hurry. It's okay. I can choose to be okay with whatever is happening around me. And so can you, our friend. We all have that power. It is so much easier to say than do, but the more we practice, the better we get at it.
Well, and the more you do the neutral or better type of breathing, the less you have discernment in a very new way. So you stop caring what other people think about you. And it's not in a way of like, you're just rude and cavalier, or anything like that. But when a person just does this, you come into this place of neutrality, you can actually listen to somebody and hear them and go, how do I need to change my words so they will receive me, for one thing? But also, two, am I supposed to do anything differently? Am I supposed to help that person? Am I supposed to rush in and save? Am I supposed to whatever? Or am I just supposed to say no? Because if people have poor boundaries or they're used to people pleasing, they may get themselves into situations where they get really worn down, really tired, especially if you are a businesswoman with children and what have you, and you don't have time for you. If you have healthy boundaries and you are in a place of this neutral or better energy, you can find a way to rearrange your schedule so these people have what their needs are met, but you aren't sacrificing yourself in the process.
Ah, that's such a good point. We do sacrifice ourselves. I think it comes from our rearing, when we're kids and, we're being raised to be a kid. Most of us weren't raised to be an adult. You respect your elders. You don't have a say in the matter. You do as you are told. You clean your room because I want you to. You do all these things because you are supposed to do it to stay in the household with your parents. Don't drink or you'll get kicked out. Don't, you know what? And I'm not saying we need to raise our kids to be adults, but we do need to not impart everything that we think is right, wrong onto people because it's not right, wrong for everybody. The lawyer has certain things he needs to do to be successful. The cashier has certain things they need to do to be successful. The garbage man has certain things he needs to do. I genderized some of these to be successful. And that doesn't mean the garbage man has all these great, beautiful things to do. If I do that, I'll be successful too. Not if it's not you. And it's finding the you and knowing who you are that's going to give you that ability to be confident with the things you have. I was like, I don't know how to I don't know how to take a cow and cut him up into a million pieces so I can eat different meals. So I'm bad. No, we have a butcher to do that, right? I don't know how to raise a garden. And okay, we have places that have farms to do that. We don't need to be able to do what everybody else does. But nobody can do you better than you. And so the better we know ourselves, the easier it is to not be offended when someone goes, well, why didn't you come on time? Well, my job doesn't require me to be here by 8:30 every day. You're confident with it because you know it doesn't matter. But to the receptionist who has to answer the phones and kick off or open the doors for the retail store, they have to be on time. So we have different expectations. And the beauty of life is knowing yours and knowing that nobody else has to be just like you.
And that's where like carving out time in your day, because again, when you are getting to know somebody, you ask them questions. How many people ask themselves real deep conversational questions and then give some part deep inside time to actually answer? And so part of it is wanting to know the truth without guilt or shame, because sometimes there's a part, and it's not the negative voice inside your head. The true higher self will tell you the truth without emotion. It's not the one that's the critical, high, whatever. It will say something in such a way that you're like, what? I had no idea. And be firm, but it's not going to be the loud, critical, naysayer, whatever. And so carving out time in your day and asking yourself things like, what do I value in the list of priority? What do I respect? Because if you write down the qualities that you respect in other people, but you don't have them in yourself, then you will feel inferior or insecure in the presence of these other people. And you'll put them on a pedestal, even though, they may not be the wonderful person that you want them to be. But because they have those qualities, you're going to put what's called the light shadow on them. Instead of just like thinking negatively, you're going to put this, aura around them where it will believe that they know more than you, that they're better than you, more special than you, just because they have certain or project certain qualities that you think that they have. So knowing what you value, what you respect, what you really want, and why. If your why is not compelling enough, you won't do it. Or if it came from a negative thing, there's things like deal breakers and deal makers. Deal makers are the things that really positively inspire us and move us past the point of inertia. Deal breakers are the things that make us sad, scared, or angry enough to do something different, because the fear of staying the same is far worse than the fear of the unknown. And a lot of people wait for a crisis to make a change. And so when a person goes, well, why do I want this? It will also tell them the difference between a means goal and an ends goal. Because most people, when they say, I want $1,000,000, they don't want to just roll around on the floor with bills of cash. They want freedom. And so they're like, oh, I think I want this, but what I really want is this over here. And so focusing on the end that you're seeking and in training yourself through things like heart math of feeling worthy and capable of having them. There is something to this. If you do not believe that you are capable of having something, you won't try. If you believe it but don't expect it to happen to you, you will try but give up in the face of adversity. And so it's oftentimes we have to program ourselves over and over again through incantations or mantras or something that to that effect, where we're priming our brain with a preparatory thought that leads to an unconscious automatic reaction or action that we take. Now, a lot of times people will say something negative to themselves that they think is just offhand, like a joke or something they just say all the time out of habit. And they don't realize that that creates an automatic behavior that either sabotages them or prevents them from moving forward in some way. So when you reprogram your mind through repetition with positive things, but not just empty words with no feeling behind it, when you anchor in positive words with an intense emotion behind it, like gratitude or joy, and you get used to feeling that way, you're like, oh, this thing that I want is actually a good thing. It's not a scary thing. Or, oh, I don't equate the thing that I want with losing my friends, or equate the thing that you want to hardship and struggle. And you know what I mean? Like a lot of people think that they want something, but the journey there seems so arduous and icky that they're like, ugh, I don't want that. Because the actual belief is that to have the thing they want, they're going to have a horrible time getting it. You know what I mean? So they have to prime themselves to go, I am going to love the journey and the outcome. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's like, I really want to be the CEO or the chairman of the board. And in order to do that, I need to be just like the guy that's in there today or just like the woman that's in there today. And a lot of times those positions change over because they want something different. We need something different in this organization. And I would much rather be me and feel confident that the way I do things is the right way in the situation than to, now how did Mr. Roger do that? Okay, this is the way I need to do it. And second guess every action I think I should take with somebody else's measure. And so it's also freeing when you know yourself because you know that it's the right way for you. I love the managers who, I need this outcome, get there however you want. Not the ones who say, okay, do this and then this and then this and every step along the way, because we all have a different way of doing things. And so, you know, really knowing who you are is an amazing thing and I'm going to be different tomorrow. I just need to know that and be okay with it.
Well, yeah. And so the roadmap to us is, asking things, what do I value? What do I respect? What do I want and why? And what do I have to start or stop doing to have those things? Now, oftentimes, people might have to stop eating this thing or start doing this thing to have a particular outcome. And so when they start asking themselves, what do I have to start or stop doing? That is like the GPS steps. Turn right here, turn left here, doing whatever. Also, be conscious of the people in your life and your environment. Because if you have people that are programming you every day that you can't, won't, or shouldn't have something, you won't have it. I mean, they've done studies just how much, like the power of proximity, that if you have a high vibrational person with a low vibrational person, and this person's more dominant energy, this person will lower mood, energy, and performance by a minimum of 50%. And so if you are surrounding yourself with people and things that are negative and don't have the lifestyle you want, you might have to start distancing yourself or changing, like putting yourself more in proximity to the people that have the thing or the situation that you want, because you will start to get programmed in a more positive way to be more like them. Like you'll start observing their habits and start doing the things that they do and avoiding the things that they avoid. And so there is some truth to this power of proximity. Like they've even done what they call like rotten apple studies, where they will put one negative person in a group of 5 or 6 and ask them to do a team exercise, and just for 60 minutes or less, so an hour or less. And again, drop in mood, energy, performance, belief, all these different things by a minimum of 50%. Now imagine living with that. So sometimes a person has to ask themselves, if this is what I want, can I get there with the people and things that are in my life? Now, I'm not saying like, bye-bye kitties, saying, cut your kids out
You're
or doing,
ruining my G.
you're right. Yeah, you're ruining my life. Yeah. Excuse me. Rent a kid, please pick them up. No, there's something to this though, of going, can I do this with the people around me? Can I do this in the environment that I'm in? If job is too toxic, can you have the life that you want? Can you have the health that you want? Because people, they have found that stress is a major thing for people's mental, emotional, and physical health. And if you have somebody or something toxic in your life, you may not be able to move forward with that person or thing. And so this is where you have to go, why am I staying in this situation? How do I change it? How do I, if this person really is like a toxic parent or sibling or whomever, even a partner, how do I empower myself? Because one of the first things people do if they're a people pleaser is like, how do I fix this person, change myself or this other person so they stop acting like that? That's not how it's going to be. It's going to be like, how do I make myself stronger so that I can walk away or say no? Because a person will show you who they are when you say no to them or set a boundary.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not like when you just give them everything that they want, because that's the quickest way to lose yourself. And so, getting to know a person, what do I value? What do I respect? What do I want and why? And what do I have to start or stop doing to get there? And am I willing to do it?
Mm-hmm. This energetic feeling, I've often tried to explain it as we're all water. Some of us are ice, some of us are room temperature, some of us are boiling. If the ice person and the boiling person get together, both energies change. Now, if the ice person goes to the stove with the boiling water is going to change a little bit, but eventually it's going to boil too. If the boiling water goes to the freezer with the ice is going to change a little bit, but eventually it's all going to be ice again. And it's like, can you stand your ground to be that type of water you choose to be? There's nothing wrong with whatever temperature water. We're different and we affect one another. And it's when you can stay, I always say I want to be in that thermos where it takes longer for my desired state to change. I want that shield because you're going to interact with all these different energies. And how do I protect my own energy so that if I want to be the ice, the boiling water comes to me and it changes, not I have to go to be boiling water to communicate with them.
When a person is authentic, but not shoving it in people's face. If a person is authentic and allows other people to do the same, but they hold good boundaries. They say what they mean and they mean what they say. And they do that consistently. The wrong people will leave, even if you thought they were your best friend for 10 years. And the right people will come in. And that's something that happened to me a year and a half ago. I was on a call with somebody, a friend of 10 years, and I could feel that this person was getting emotional to invoke a response in me, which would have been like, how do I fix this? How do I save this? How do I offer them what they want type of thing? And this person was preparing for basically 7 months in advance to be alone for the holidays. And so I gave them a multitude of different things that they could do, solutions, what have you. But this person kept drumming up emotion. And so I was like, okay, what do you really want me to say so that you stop doing this? Because I've given you a whole bunch of solutions and none of them are the ones that you want me to suggest on my own. I had a feeling she wanted me to invite her up and stay with me permanently. And I just didn't have the bandwidth for that type of situation. So I just said, what is it you really want me to say? Because I wanted her to ask, to be authentic and just ask. And that person hung up on me and I haven't heard from her in a year and a half. And this is somebody I'd known for 10 years. We probably spoke 15 hours a week. And so when I just out of like going, I'm just going to be in this place of neutral or better. I want to see what the true dynamic of this relationship is without me playing a role, without me bending over backwards or sacrificing myself here. I'm just going to ask from a place of neutrality, what do you actually want me to say to you? And this person could not admit it.
It happens. But sometimes, people don't dare. They're afraid. And even if they had asked, the answer wouldn't be, come on up. It's like, Ashley, I really want to live with you for 6, 7 months because I need you. You would have probably had a hard time saying no because you loved them. So it worked out great. But it's when we can be true to ourselves and say, I just don't have the bandwidth. I can't. Look how much more powerful things are.
But this is where it gets interesting because you start to see the true nature of the relationships around you. Because if we're just nice all the time, we don't realize that we think that people are taking advantage of us. We've taken advantage of us.
Mm.
And then we wonder, like, why didn't this person turn out the way I wanted them to? Because I was so nice. But so when we're just authentic, we can really it just cuts out all the BS and allows us to have this opportunity going, is this the best situation for me? Is this the best friendship? Is this the best job? If I just show up as authentic, do I actually like this? Do I actually want this? Do we actually match? Again, it could be a personal relationship, professional relationship, whatever. But so this is where we have to know ourselves. We have to really be honest. Because instead of just putting out the fires and trying to make everybody happy all the time, go, do I want this role? Like, is this really what I really want? And if it's yes, fine. But if it's not, and so with the situation with this person, I decided I had a feeling that I knew what was happening and somebody else admitted it to me a year later that I called it. I was absolutely accurate in my assessment of what was going on. And this person chose to end our friendship rather than hear a no. You know what I'm saying? And so this is where you can go just from a place of authenticity, go, your life will change when you really know yourself, know what you want, and know what you're willing to say yes to and what you're willing to say no to and why. Things will just play out totally differently rather than trying to manipulate yourself or manipulate somebody else to have a totally different life, because that's where things get confusing. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's where we lose ourselves because we're like, well, this person wants me to be this way and I have to be this way for this person over here. We never actually go, what do I want?
And that we get to give ourselves permission to know what we want and to choose it.
And it doesn't make you a bad person just because it may be different than what somebody else wants you to be for them.
Yeah. The fish wants to swim and wants all of his friends to come swimming with him, but his friend, the bird, just doesn't like it. Do they stay friends? That's up to both of them. But it doesn't make the bird wrong for not wanting to go swimming.
Yeah. And I think this is where a person doesn't have to be bad or wrong for things to not work out. We don't judge oil and water for not mixing without force. if you think about it, you have to like really shake that oil and water and like, or homogenize it somehow with like a blender or whatever. And you have to do it over and over again. You have to force the immersion to happen. But if their true nature is to be separate, then that's what it is. We don't go, oh, nature, those bonds are explosive, chemistry, or those, they just naturally match. But we are often trying to manipulate ourselves or somebody else or a situation even to force it and then wonder why it falls apart later. And so part of this is like when you know yourself, you're going, oh, are these true matches for me? Matches in jobs, matches in health, matches in like clothing choices. When we're no longer trying to, again, manipulate ourselves or our environment, we're just going, what do I really want and why do I want it? Sometimes we're like, I don't know, I just feel good. That might be it.
That is a good enough answer.
Yeah.
As long as you feeling good isn't intentionally trying to harm someone else, because that's a false sense of feeling good.
Yes. And so this is where making yourself a priority, like maybe asking yourself, okay, what can I, carving out 5, 10, 20 minutes, maybe a day and talking to yourself. What do I want today? Like, how can I bring joy in my life today? Or how can, what do I need to do for this week? Or is there a goal for the year? Whatever it is. And then put it down, write it down and go, is there anything that's blocking me? Maybe it's a belief system. How do I change that belief system so I can still have the outcome that I want, but not hurt myself or other people? You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just learning to ask different questions to get to the end result without resistance, and then taking some sort of dynamic action. A lot of times in the woo-woo community here, we have this thing where like, I just want it. The universe is going to give it to me like that. Sometimes, yes. Other times, it's like, don't get into analysis paralysis. Just start taking imperfect action and things will just start happening because you're showing the universe that you're serious, that you're committed.
When you're saying that, I was thinking about the bird in the water and the bird going, universe, I want to like to swim. I want to like to swim. Help me. And sometimes we're asking for the wrong thing. Help me understand why I might not need to swim. Help me understand why I want to. And if it so be that that's what I'm supposed to do, then turn me into a fish. I don't care. But it's when we're asking the right question. God, give me the Taj Mahal. That's already occupied. Give me a nice place to live that makes me happy, And I know it's not give, it's allow me to occupy that space. It's letting the universe help you in your mindset and your direction of really being you. Not the one you were raised to be, not the one your corporate leaders want you to be, not the one your spouse wants you to be, the one you want to be. Because if you're with the right people, they're going to want that too.
Yeah, and so part of that is like having a healthy relationship with the universe. You're not having a God wound where, you think that nothing cares about you or that, life sucks type of thing. So attitude's going to be a big deal. Having a positive attitude, not false positive where we overlook red flags or ignore them, because we need to see the truth of that too. But really, having a positive attitude and saying, where do I need to surrender? And if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and the universe will make it happen. What, if anything, is my role in this?
And you are you, and your role is 100%. And how do you become that you? And it's first by learning who you are.
Yeah.
Because there's so much domestication on us of, the government says this is what healthy people eat. I'm not saying the government's bad, but there's all these expectations. Media says this is what a healthy woman looks like. The media says this is the way I'm supposed to dress. That everywhere you look, something is telling you what they want you to think you're supposed to be. And when we allow ourselves to be our personal, unique self, that's when we shine. I love the person who has their unique style that doesn't fall into the social norms. I still kind of dress as social norms, but I'm comfortable in it and I don't feel like I'm hiding. But I'm thankful for those people that do it their way. And you just go, how powerful is that person? Because they're okay with being different. And I want to be okay with being my different.
Well, you said something just a little bit ago about the boss who says, I don't care how you get the outcome, just get it. This is where, again, asking oneself, like, what do I want and why, and what do I have to start and stop doing to get that? Being solution oriented rather than looking for problems, worst case scenarios, or excuses. I hear a lot of excuses from people. And so for me, like I've done some really weird things, like graduate from high school in 3 years, college in 3 years. There was no roadmap. In fact, all the higher ups said it's never going to happen. Even surviving a terminal condition, I no longer have seizures or strokes or the disease anymore. I didn't do anything that any of the people had told me to do. If I had, I would have died 15 years ago. But I just go, okay, what is it for me? What is the outcome I want? And what do I have to do to make that happen? Like, for instance, in high school, I asked the counselor, how do I graduate in 3 years? And he says, nobody's graduated early in 20 years. I'm like, I don't care about anybody else. Just tell me, how many credits do I need? What classes do I need to take? He says, well, you need this many credits. And I said, easy. I'll go to high school during the day and community college at night. And he's like, well, you still need these 2 classes and you can't fit them into your schedule. They were sex education and PE. So I wrote a letter to the school board and said, neither one of these classes are detrimental to my college education. They won't help me nor hinder me for their presence or their absence. They waived them.
Oh, how nice.
And
See,
so,
because you took it, you did it. You didn't let someone telling you this is the rule to stop you. You went, okay, what can I do? I
yeah,
can try something. They could have still told you no. You could have still had to do something, but you took a chance. And when we take a chance on what we feel we should be able to do, you're giving yourself a chance.
yeah. And one of my classmates, she was a teenage mom at the time as we were in high school. And she's like, what are you doing? And so I told her. She did the same formula and graduated with me.
How exciting. That's so cool. I had no idea that school board would even do that. Did they need you to replace it with something else? So you had the same amount, not that this is the discussion, but did you have to compromise in some other way to get through? Because sometimes we will.
So in order to get enough credits to graduate, I had to go to school at night too. And because I had a running start, I went to business law classes at community college. And I explained in my letter that I was going into criminal justice, and I did. And so I was taking courses that could be applied to my undergrad degree. And so I made up enough credits to graduate. And so I did what I needed to do in the time frame I needed to do it. And I walked a month after I turned 17. So same thing with like the medical situation. They usually give people chemotherapy and prednisone till they die. I never took any of that. I found a way to naturally turn off the condition, put it in remission, get rid of the inflammation, and all of the different other co-infections and problems that happened went away. And so it's just sort of like looking for solutions. Maybe it's not how this person did it, but it's like, show me a way that that's meant for me. Like even my career does not exist out there. I had to create it myself. I go, what do I want? And what do I have to do to put it out there? And so I think that people have to really be positive. They have to believe, have conviction that they can and will have an outcome they want. And they just have to ask themselves, what do I have to start and stop doing to get there? And how do I make myself willing to do it?
That's an important point because some of the things I don't want to stop and some of the things I don't want to start. But if I'm willing and I know that it's what is going to bring me my best self, then I'll do it. And it's finding that willingness. Like, oh, do I really have to go for a walk every day? No, but these are the benefits you get when you do and you choose.
Yeah, I mean, I started running about April of last year, and when I first started, I was throwing up all the time. I'm like, who loves this crap? But I just kept doing it, and I was like, this is great. And I started laughing at myself because I've made a joke out of it every single time. Like, I love this. This is amazing. And got so used to doing it. I've been doing it almost every day since, and I absolutely love it now. In fact, I crave it. But it was one of those things where before I just had, I'm not a runner. I'm not a this. I stopped doing that. And I started claiming I'm a runner. I love to do X. I love to do Y. It's not like I'm lying to myself. I'm not gaslighting myself. But I'm like, how do I become the person that has the life that I envision in my head? And that new vision, when you go, this is a life that I want, look at that new life, that new version of self, and go, what am I doing now that that person doesn't do? That's what you stop doing.
Yes.
What is that person doing that I don't do? That's what you have to start doing. And maybe you have to like talk yourself into it because you're like, I wear what? I cut my hair off. Like, I do this, I do that. And it's like, well, that's what that version does.
Yeah.
And so when they say, don't do, just be. Well, there's doing in the being. There's thinking, there's a speaking, there's a walking, talking, acting. There's this part where you're entraining yourself to a new vibration that is around the people that version is around, that eats the way that version eats, that dresses the way that version dresses, that speaks the way that person speaks, that makes those decisions. You step yourself into this new version through these micro habits that you're changing. And sometimes you have to reinforce how much you love it. And at first it may feel like a lie. But if you go, the outcome is actually really beneficial for me. And whatever it takes to program my mind to be in sync with it, you're going to have a much better outcome rather than constantly having this resistance and dragging yourself there, because the resistance is not evidence that you shouldn't do it. It could just be because you're addicted to something else.
Mm-hmm. And it's important that you get these steps, and you may get them one at a time, because you're going to take time turning around and turning your life. And you may get a download that has all of them at one time. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is massive. Pick one, start working on it.
Yeah.
Then go to the next and work on it. We don't have to get it all done overnight. We're here to learn and grow and to experience, create the us that we really want to be. And we have the power. That's the awesome part about this knowing yourself. Is you have the power to implement and be that self too. You don't just have to know who it is. You can be it.
Also be willing to see the truth without an emotion. When I started, especially looking at changing relationships, when I had to ask myself what was my role in every toxic situation that I was in, I had to see it without guilt or shame, because if you start getting into guilt or shame, you shut down or you get mad at yourself. That's not useful. You need to be able to see what you need to start and stop doing. And for me, it was people pleasing and ignoring red flags. And so when I stopped doing that and I could see it for what it is, I couldn't unsee it. I started to see it everywhere. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm surrounded by these people. What did I do? And so when I stopped being the people pleaser, it doesn't mean I became mean, but there's a difference between nice and kind. A kind person can say the truth to somebody, but leave their dignity intact. A nice person can lie to somebody hoping for a particular outcome and then be resentful when they don't get it. So for me, if I just speak the truth or just say no or just whatever, who or what's going to be in my life, and or even changing money habits. I'm like, what was my role in these money situations, or what was my role in my health, in my successes or my failures? You have to be able to look at the failures without fear or resentment or grief or shame, just from a place of utter neutrality. That's where we suggest doing that, like the heart focused breathing for a while first, going, I need to be able to see the pattern that needs to break and what pattern needs to be created to have a different outcome. Otherwise, I'm going to keep recreating it, thinking that I'm cursed or that it's the devil or that every time I get my way, maybe it's God, maybe it's you. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just a good habit that you've been doing and thinking it's the universe doing it for you, but it's just your higher self. So part of this is to really be able to be willing to see that truth without any emotion, just from a place of neutrality, and then going, what do I need to do to have a different outcome or to have more of the same outcome if you like it?
I have a sign on my wall that just says, it just is. And it's quit putting that emotion, good or bad, on it. This is something I'm experiencing. And this is something that I'm learning from. Not that we have to learn a lesson that kind of can get overstimulated or crazy, but I am growing. I am changing. We don't dish a plant that's 2 inches tall, and we don't dish the one that's a foot taller or the tree that's 60 feet. They're all an evolution of that same tree, and allowing it its growth pattern, allowing it where it wants to be. That's where we get success. That's where you quit judging other people. Oh, you're just a little tree. You're just so stupid. Blah, blah, blah. It's just not evolved yet. And allow everybody to evolve at their own time. So I love this because you get closer and closer to the true you every day.
Yeah. And stack your wins. You know what I mean? Like celebrate when you do something well and not celebrate in a way that you're going to feel bad about it later. Like, I deserve this whole, I don't know, cake or case of beer or whatever it is that sometimes people overindulge and then their way of celebrating themselves is like a toxic version. But if you go like, I did a good job and I love how I feel every time I do something like this, every time I complete a task. So that's another thing. Like every time I do this, I'm going to celebrate myself. I'm going to give myself a high five. That will, compliment myself. Like, yeah, you rock. Or whatever it is that you have to do, give yourself a reward, even if it's just words of affirmation or like quality time doing an activity that you love or taking yourself to the movies. Like don't even be afraid if you're a single person to go out there and like take yourself on a me date. You know
Well,
what I
you don't
mean?
even have to be single to do that.
Right.
You can be in whatever kind of relationship you are and still do self-time.
Yeah. Go do a me date. Like, go take yourself to the movies. Go take yourself to like a dinner or a brunch or a whatever, or, get a massage or do your nails or whatever it is, that you want to do and go, okay, when you stack your wins rather than rehearse your failures, then you start creating a more of a success mindset.
I think it's beautiful. You and I could probably talk for another hour. I love the wisdom and the knowledge that you have and what you've been able to create in your life. And the health and the wellness is one teeny part of having a solid life. It's just one that's so easy to see. It's an easy black and white. But there's so much to our lives that nobody else is going to see or they're not going to be able to measure. And when we're confident that we're living our true selves, we don't need to be measured by anybody else's thoughts any longer. And that's where we gain that clarity and that peace that it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
So I really appreciate your time, Ashley. This has just been really a lot of fun. Like I said, we've probably talked 10 more hours, so we're going to have you back. But I really would like to give you a chance to share a little bit more about how to get a hold of you, what you do, and remind us. I think you kept talking about those 5 things. You can go back over those or you can give us a new, here's what to focus on.
I would just say for people who are trying to know themselves, carve out time in your schedule on a regular basis, if not daily, then a couple times a week, and make it quality time, not time where you're distracted. And then ask yourself, what do I need to know today? Or if you have a certain goal, what do I need to start or stop doing to have that? Or like, what do I want? Why? What do I have to start or stop doing to have that? If you want to put in, what do I value and what do I respect? That probably only needs to be done once. But when you're checking back in with yourself, what do I want and why? And what do I believe about my worthiness and capability? That's another good thing. How do I change any limiting beliefs? What do I need to change that limiting belief to? So there's some of that. In terms of how to get a hold of me, my website is bonesoftheearth.org. I am an international life coach, shamanic practitioner, energy medicine practitioner, as well as a psychic medium. I work with people in 33 countries worldwide, and I've been doing this work since 2004. So whether a person has just ordinary reality problems that they want solutions to or deep insight about, we can talk about that. Or if you feel like your energy is stuck and you need help getting moving, we can work on that. So that's basically who I am and what I do. I also have a podcast called Soul Deep on Gnostic TV. It's free. You just have to enter in your email address to access all of my videos.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Really, really fun conversation. Ashley and I are not licensed medical or mental professionals. We are here for entertainment. People that have found ways that help us. And if we can help you along your path, let us know. So stay tuned for the next episode.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Lara Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss the next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.